Cole Branson had always been the kind of man people noticed, even though he never tried to stand out. He was tall, soft-spoken, and carried the quiet confidence that came from years of working with the land. Every morning before sunrise, he walked across the wide Wyoming fields, listening to the soft rustle of grass and the distant call of cows. The ranch had become more than a workplace to him. It was the only place where he felt steady. When everything else in his life had changed, the land stayed the same. The sky still opened up like a giant blue blanket. The wind still brushed against him like an old friend. And the sun still rose each day, warm and patient, waiting for him to begin again. But even with all that peace around him, Cole carried a kind of stillness that others could feel. It wasn't sadness exactly, but it wasn't happiness either. It was something in between, something he never spoke about. The truth was simple and heavy. Cole had lost the person he loved most. And even though 3 long years had passed, he still wore his wedding ring. It sat on his finger like a small piece of the past he could never let go of. For many people, a wedding ring was a symbol of commitment. For Cole, it had become a memory he held on to because letting go felt too hard. Most of the people in town respected his silence. They knew he was a widower. They knew he had loved Marla with a devotion that people admired. They knew the ring stayed because he wasn't ready to face a world where he didn't need it. Some whispered that he should move on. Others believed he would when the time was right. But Cole never joined those conversations. He simply kept working, kept walking the same paths, and kept living each day as it came. Everything shifted on a late summer morning when a truck rolled into the ranch. It wasn't unusual for visitors to come, business partners, buyers, or neighbors needing help, but this time, the moment stood out. The sun was still soft, and the dust around the truck sparkled in the light. Cole paused mid-task, wiping his hands on his jeans, and watched as a woman stepped out. She was carrying a camera around her neck, and the way she looked around, full of curiosity and calm excitement, made her seem like someone seeing the world for the first time. Her name was Jenna Marks. She introduced herself with a warm smile, explaining that she was a photographer traveling across different states for a project about modern ranch life. She had permission from the ranch owner to photograph the workers, the land, and the routines that made the place come alive. Cole listened politely, though he wasn't sure what she wanted with people like him. To him, ranch life wasn't exciting or special. It was just life. But Jenna looked at it as if every small detail mattered. When Jenna first focused her camera on Cole, he felt strangely aware of himself. She didn't rush. She didn't push. She simply observed him with the same gentle attention she gave the horses and open fields. At first, he kept his distance, answering her questions with short, simple replies. But Jenna didn't seem bothered. She was patient, taking time to understand the rhythms of the ranch. She walked slowly, listened carefully, and spoke with a kindness that didn't demand anything from him. As the day went on, Cole noticed how naturally she blended into the work around her. She never got in the way and never made anyone feel uncomfortable. Instead, she captured small moments that even the ranch hands had stopped noticing. Dust rising behind running horses, sunlight resting on wooden fences, worn-out gloves hanging from nails in the barn wall. She saw stories in places most people would overlook. Cole found himself watching her more than he intended. Not because she was glamorous or loud, she wasn't, but because she carried a gentle energy that felt new to him. It had been a long time since he had been curious about someone. A long time since he wanted to know what someone was thinking. And he couldn't help wondering what she saw through her camera lens when she looked at the ranch, and at him. During a break in the afternoon, Jenna walked over to him with 2 cups of coffee she had brought from her truck. She offered him one with a small smile, and Cole accepted it, though he wasn't sure if he'd actually drink it. He wasn't much of a coffee person unless the day was especially cold, but he held the cup anyway because refusing felt too unfriendly. and something about her presence made him want to soften a little. Jenna began asking him questions, simple ones at first. How long had he been working on the ranch? What was his favorite part of the job? Which horse was his favorite, and why? Cole answered slowly, each word chosen with care. He wasn't used to talking about himself, but she had a way of listening that made him feel like his answers mattered, even if he didn't think they did. After a while, Jenna noticed the ring on his finger. She didn't mention it. But Cole saw her eyes linger for just a second before she looked back at the pasture. Something about her silence made him more aware of the ring than usual. It felt heavier that day, as if reminding him of the years behind him and the years ahead that he didn't know how to face. What surprised him most was how easy it became to talk around her. She didn't pressure him or expect him to reveal anything personal. She simply encouraged conversation by being present. Sometimes she shared little stories about her travels. Nothing dramatic, just small moments that made her laugh or think. Cole found himself responding, sometimes with a quiet smile, sometimes with a short comment. Each exchange felt gentle, like stepping into sunlight after standing too long in the shade. By late afternoon, she asked if she could take a few photos of him working with the horses. Cole hesitated for a moment, unsure how he felt about being the center of attention. But something about her request didn't feel demanding. It felt like she genuinely wanted to understand the person behind the ranch work. So, he agreed. As she photographed him, Cole tried not to think too much. He focused on the horses, on the soft sound of hooves and the familiar smell of hay. But every time he caught sight of Jenna through the corner of his eye, he felt a quiet shift inside himself. He didn't know what it was yet, or what it meant, but it was there, small, warm, and unexpected. By the end of the day, Jenna thanked him for his time and said she would be around the ranch for a few more days. Cole simply nodded, unsure what to say. As she walked back to her truck, he stood still for a moment, watching her silhouette against the fading light. He wasn't sure why he felt drawn to her. He wasn't sure if he should feel anything at all. But something inside him whispered that her arrival had changed the quiet pattern of his life, even if only slightly. When he walked back toward the barn, the ring on his finger felt as familiar as ever. But for the first time in a long while, he wondered what life might look like if he didn't cling to the past so tightly. He didn't have the answer yet. But the question had finally been asked. The next morning started like any other on the ranch, but something felt a little different to Cole. He tried to ignore it, pushing the feeling aside as he stepped into his boots and walked out into the fresh morning air. The sky was painted in soft orange and pink, and the cool breeze carried the smell of dew on grass. Everything around him looked the same fences, the same dirt path, the same horses waiting to be fed. But inside him, there was a quiet shift he couldn't name yet. It wasn't troubling, just unusual. What he didn't expect was to find Jenna already awake, camera in hand, sitting on the fence near the horse pasture. She looked peaceful, completely absorbed in capturing the way the sunrise touched the ranch. Cole paused for a moment, watching her before she noticed he was there. She seemed different from most people he met. Many visitors came rushing in, taking quick photos, talking loudly, and leaving with barely a memory of the place. Jenna seemed to truly see everything. She didn't hurry. She didn't demand attention. She moved slowly and thoughtfully, as if every small piece of the world mattered. When she finally turned and saw him, her face lit up with an easy smile that made Cole feel strangely warm. He nodded in greeting, unsure if he should start a conversation or simply get back to his work. But Jenna hopped off the fence and walked toward him. "You're up early," she said gently. "Ranch doesn't run itself," Cole replied with a small smile of his own. Jenna laughed lightly, not mocking him, but simply enjoying the truth of his words. Good thing it has people like you, she said. I was trying to catch the light. Morning light is softer, makes everything feel gentle. Cole didn't know much about photography, but something about the way she talked made him want to understand. And did you get what you wanted? He asked. She nodded. I think so. But I want more pictures of the people too, real moments, not posed. Cole felt a small pull in his chest. He knew where this was going. You mean me? He asked. If you're comfortable, she answered kindly. No pressure. Cole didn't answer right away. He didn't like attention. He didn't like being looked at too closely, not because he was shy, but because he didn't want anyone to see the heaviness he carried inside. But Jenna didn't make it feel like something big or uncomfortable. She made it feel easy, almost safe. I guess I can help, he finally said. Jenna's eyes brightened slightly. Thank you. They walked side by side toward the barn, not speaking for a few minutes. The silence wasn't awkward. It felt natural, like two people sharing the same quiet morning without needing to fill every second with words. Jenna watched Cole as he worked. She didn't interrupt. She simply captured moments. Him brushing a horse's mane, tightening a saddle, adjusting a rope. Cole tried not to think about the camera, focusing instead on the familiar tasks. But every now and then, he caught Jenna studying him with curiosity, not in a way that made him uncomfortable, but in a way that made him feel seen, as if she understood there was more to him than the quiet man he appeared to be. After a while, Jenna put her camera down and leaned against the barn wall, watching him with gentle interest. You're very calm, she said softly. Even when things get busy, you move slowly, like you're not stressed. Cole shrugged. Ranch work teaches you that. If you hurry, you scare the horses. And if you act tough, they won't trust you. That sounds like life too, Jenna said, smiling. People trust calm people. Cole looked at her, surprised by how simply she said things he had never put into words. He continued brushing the horse, but her words stayed with him. A few minutes later, she asked, Do you ever get tired of this? Doing the same thing every day? Cole shook his head. Routine keeps me steady. I like knowing what comes next. The land doesn't judge. Animals don't judge. They just need you to show up. And people? Jenna asked softly. Cole paused. He didn't want to say the wrong thing or reveal more than he intended. People are harder, he finally said. Jenna nodded thoughtfully, as if she understood more than he told her. She didn't push him. She simply let his answer rest in the air. Later that afternoon, they found themselves walking together toward the edge of the ranch where wildflowers grew. It wasn't planned, but Jenna had asked if she could photograph the open fields, and Cole knew the best place. While she took pictures, Cole stood nearby, feeling oddly comfortable just being in her presence. She had a warmth that reminded him of peaceful days, days that didn't hurt. Jenna eventually lowered her camera and turned toward him with gentle curiosity. Can I ask you something personal? She said. You can ask, Cole replied cautiously. You wear your wedding ring, she said quietly, not accusingly, not forcefully. I noticed yesterday. I wasn't going to say anything, but I want to understand the story behind it. Cole's breath caught for a moment. He stared at the ring, the small metal band that had lived on his finger longer than he cared to admit. He didn't talk about Marla often, not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't know how. The memories felt both too close and too distant. But Jenna wasn't asking to poke at his pain. She was asking because she cared. It's a long story, he said softly. I have time, she replied. Cole looked at the horizon. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle, and something in that moment felt safe enough for honesty. I loved her. She was everything good in my life. Losing her changed me, and I kept the ring because I didn't know what else to do. Taking it off felt like losing her twice. Jenna didn't respond right away. She wasn't someone who filled silence with quick, pointless words. Instead, she gave him a moment to breathe, to feel, to release some of the weight he had silently carried. "That makes sense," she said finally, her voice soft and respectful. "Love doesn't disappear, not even when life changes." Cole nodded. He wasn't sure what else to say. Talking about Marla opened an old ache, but it didn't feel unbearable with Jenna standing beside him. She stepped closer, but kept a respectful distance. "You don't have to explain anything you're not ready to," she added gently. "I just think it's brave that you're still open to talking to people. A lot of people close themselves off when they've been through something hard." Cole thought about that. "I guess I just keep moving," he said. "It's easier than stopping." "It's okay to stop sometimes," Jenna said quietly. "It's okay to feel things too." Cole looked at her then, really looked. Jenna wasn't asking for anything. She wasn't demanding space in his life. She was just offering understanding. And for the first time in a long time, he felt someone gently knocking on the doors he had kept shut. As the day came to an end, they walked back toward the barn together. The air grew cooler, and the sky slowly shifted from bright blue to soft shades of purple and gold. Cole found himself wishing the walk would last a little longer. He wasn't sure why. Maybe it was the calmness of her presence, or the way she listened, or the simple fact that for the first time in years, he felt connected to someone. When they reached the barn, Jenna smiled at him in a way that felt honest and warm. "Thank you for sharing part of your day with me," she said. "And for trusting me, even a little." Cole nodded quietly. "You're easy to talk to," he admitted. Jenna's smile deepened just a little. "I'm glad." As she walked back toward her truck, Cole watched her with a thoughtful expression. He had lived in silence for so long that he had forgotten what it felt like to want to talk to someone. Jenna didn't replace the past or erase his memories, but she made the present feel a little lighter, a little warmer. And for the first time in a very long time, Cole wondered if life might still have room for something new, something gentle, something hopeful, waiting quietly just beyond the horizon. The evening of the town gathering arrived with a soft glow settling over the Wyoming sky. Cole hadn't planned on going at first. Social events weren't something he looked forward to. He preferred the quiet routines of the ranch, where the only sound was the wind or the soft nicker of horses. But Jenna had asked him earlier in the day, her eyes hopeful, her smile warm, and somehow he found himself agreeing before he had time to talk himself out of it. He spent the afternoon trying to convince himself that it was just a simple gathering, nothing more. People went to these things all the time, but for Cole, things had been different for years. After losing Marla, he had slowly stepped away from anything that involved crowds or noise or conversation. He didn't mind being alone. It was easier, quieter, and safer for a heart that had already been shaken enough. But when he saw Jenna again as the sun dipped below the horizon, something inside him felt steadier than he expected. She stood beside her truck, wearing a simple denim jacket and comfortable shoes, looking like she belonged perfectly in the quiet ranch evening. She waved at him with a smile that made his chest feel unexpectedly light. "You came," she said softly. "Yeah," Cole replied, clearing his throat. "Didn't want you going alone." Jenna's smile widened just a little, enough to show she was touched. "I'm glad." They drove to town together in Cole's old truck. The road stretched ahead, long and quiet, lined with fields that glowed under the last bit of fading sunlight. Jenna seemed peaceful as she looked out the window, taking in the scenery like she always did, as if even the smallest details were worth noticing. Cole glanced at her from time to time, surprised by how comfortable the silence between them felt. When they arrived at the small community center, Music drifted into the cool air. Not loud, just lively enough to make the place feel warm. People stood around chatting, eating simple food, and enjoying each other's company. The lights twinkled around the entrance, casting a soft glow on everything. It was the kind of gathering meant to bring people together. Cole felt a moment of hesitation, but Jenna gently touched his arm. "We'll go in together," she said, her voice calm. He nodded. Somehow, knowing she was beside him helped him breathe easier. Inside, the atmosphere was light and friendly. A few people greeted Cole, surprised to see him but glad he'd come out. He introduced Jenna when needed, and she greeted everyone with her natural warmth. She had a way of making people feel comfortable without even trying. Cole watched as she spoke with the locals, saw how easily she connected with them, how her laughter blended beautifully with the soft music around them. After a while, Jenna returned to his side with 2 cups of lemonade. "They ran out of coffee," she said with a grin. Lemonade wasn't Cole's favorite, but he took the cup anyway. "Thanks." They walked outside for a moment, stepping into the quieter night air. The stars had begun to sprinkle across the sky, bright and clear. Jenna looked up, her eyes shining with wonder. "Wyoming skies are something else," she said. "They're one of the reasons I stayed," Cole admitted. "And the ranch?" Jenna asked gently. Cole nodded. "It's home." Jenna turned to him, studying his face with thoughtful eyes. "It seems like it's more than that." Cole took a breath. "It's where my best memories are, and where the hardest ones are, too." Jenna didn't pressure him. She simply stood beside him, waiting, offering her quiet understanding. After a moment, Cole spoke again. "Marla loved gatherings like this. She always dragged me along. I'd grumble about it, but she had a way of making everything feel lighter." Jenna listened carefully. "She sounds like she was a warm person." "She was," Cole said softly. "She had this gift of making people feel seen. She believed that even small moments mattered." Jenna's expression softened. "Maybe that's why you and I get along," she said gently. "I like small moments too." Cole felt something shift inside him when she said that. It was subtle but impossible to ignore. They returned to the gathering, and for the first time in a long while, Cole found himself relaxing. He even laughed a couple times, which surprised him. Jenna noticed too, her eyes brightening each time his smile appeared. When the gathering finally began to settle down, she suggested a short walk before heading back. Cole agreed. They walked along the quiet street, the soft glow of streetlights guiding their steps. Jenna's jacket fluttered in the light breeze, and Cole felt a calmness around her that he hadn't felt with anyone else since Marla. It wasn't forced. It wasn't fast. It was simply gentle. After a moment of walking in silence, Jenna looked at him thoughtfully. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure," Cole replied, though he already sensed the question. "Why do you still wear your wedding ring?" she asked softly. There was no pressure in her tone, no judgment, only curiosity and care. Cole stared at his hand for a long moment. The ring glinted under the streetlight. "I guess I wear it because I don't know how not to," he said honestly. "It reminds me of good times. It keeps her close." Jenna nodded slowly. "I understand," she said. "Love doesn't just disappear." "No," Cole agreed. "It doesn't." "But," Jenna continued gently, "do you think she would want you to be stuck between remembering and living?" Cole stopped walking. Her question wasn't meant to hurt him. It was meant to help him see something he had been avoiding. Jenna stepped in front of him, her eyes steady and kind. "You don't have to stop loving her," she said softly. "You just have to let yourself live again." Cole took in her words, feeling them settle deep inside him. For a moment, he didn't speak. He wasn't upset. He wasn't overwhelmed. He was simply facing a truth he had never dared to face. Jenna reached out, gently touching his arm. "Take it off if you love me," she said quietly. "Not because you're forgetting her, but because choosing life isn't betrayal. It's courage." Her words were soft, honest, respectful. She wasn't asking him to give up his past. She was asking him to choose his future. And standing there under the soft glow of the streetlights, Cole felt something inside him open, a place he had kept locked away for years. He didn't take the ring off that moment, but he felt the weight of it differently. It no longer felt like something he had to cling to. Instead, it felt like something he could eventually set down with love, not loss. As they walked back to the truck, both of them silent but connected, Cole realized something gentle and powerful. He wasn't alone anymore. Jenna wasn't just passing through his life. She was already leaving footprints he couldn't ignore, and for the first time in years, he felt the beginning of a new chapter slowly unfolding, quiet, hopeful, and full of possibilities he hadn't dared to imagine. The night after the gathering, Cole didn't sleep much. He lay awake in his small, quiet room, listening to the soft sighs of the wind as it brushed against the ranch house. Normally, that sound brought him peace. It reminded him that the world kept moving even when he felt stuck. But tonight, it only deepened the thoughts circling in his mind. He couldn't stop hearing Jenna's words. "Take it off if you love me." She hadn't said it with pressure. She hadn't said it like someone demanding something. She had said it with honesty, with a gentle kind of hope. She wanted him to choose life, not forget the past. And somehow, that made the thought heavier instead of lighter. Cole turned the ring around his finger, feeling the smooth metal under his thumb. It had been there for years, so long that he couldn't remember the feeling of his hand without it. The ring had been a promise, a symbol of a love that had shaped him. Taking it off felt like stepping into cold water after standing in warm sunlight for too long. It felt uncertain, strange, and frightening. But the thought of Jenna, her kind eyes, her patient voice, the way she listened without expecting anything, kept returning to him. She wasn't trying to replace Marla. She wasn't asking him to forget. She simply wanted him to let himself breathe again. Cole sat up in bed and stared at the faint light coming through his window. The moon hung low in the sky, glowing softly. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything inside him. The next morning, he woke early, as he always did. But today felt different. He dressed slowly, his mind still tangled with questions he didn't know how to answer. The ring felt heavier than usual, as if it knew change was nearby. When he stepped outside, the quiet morning wrapped around him. The air was cool, the sky pale with the early sun beginning to rise. Birds chirped softly, and the ranch looked peaceful, untouched by the thoughts that troubled him. He began his usual chores, feeding the horses and checking the fences. But even the familiar work couldn't quiet his mind. With each task, he found himself drifting into memories, moments with Marla that were warm and cherished. Days filled with laughter, simple joys, and dreams they once shared. Those memories still lived inside him, gentle and steady. But now Jenna's presence lived there too, soft and growing like morning light. Her kindness, her calmness, her gentle understanding, they had settled into a corner of his heart he didn't think would open again. Later in the morning, he found himself standing in front of the small wooden shelf in his room. It held a few keepsakes, a faded photograph of him and Marla, a smooth stone she had given him during a picnic, and a small wooden box he had once carved for her. The box had been empty for years, resting quietly, untouched. Cole picked it up, running his fingers across the familiar grooves. It felt warm in his hands, as if holding a piece of his past. He sat on the edge of his bed and stared at the ring again. Taking it off wouldn't erase anything. Taking it off wouldn't make him stop loving her. Taking it off wouldn't replace the life they had shared. It would only mean that he was ready to take a step toward something new. He closed his eyes, breathing slowly. Then, with trembling hands, he slid the ring off his finger. The moment was small, simple, and yet it felt like the earth shifted beneath him. His finger felt lighter, almost strangely bare. He placed the ring inside the wooden box, closed it softly, and held it against his chest for a long moment. "I'll never forget you," he whispered quietly, the words meant for Marla's memory, not the empty room. He placed the box back on the shelf with gentle care. It didn't feel like he was locking away his past. It felt like he was honoring it, giving it a safe place while he stepped into the next part of his life. When he walked outside later, the sun was rising fully, painting the ranch in warm gold. The world looked calm, as if welcoming his small but meaningful decision. Cole felt different, not lighter entirely, but clearer somehow, as if a fog he'd grown used to had finally begun to lift. He found Jenna near the barn, kneeling to take a photo of a horse grazing in the morning light. Her hair fell gently across her face, and she tucked it behind her ear as she adjusted her camera. When she looked up and saw him, her face brightened instantly. "Good morning," she greeted with a soft smile. "Morning," Cole replied, his voice steady but full of something new. Jenna stood and dusted her jeans, walking closer. "You're up early." "Habit," he said with a small smile. She smiled too, but then her eyes softened, noticing something different about him. She didn't look at his hand right away, even though he knew she sensed a change. "How are you feeling?" she asked gently. Cole didn't answer immediately. Instead, he took a slow breath. Then he raised his hand, letting her see his bare finger. Jenna's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't gasp or rush forward. She simply looked at him with a kind of gentle understanding that warmed him from the inside out. You did it," she whispered. "I did," Cole said softly. She took a step closer, her voice filled with emotion but steady. "Are you okay?" "I think so," he replied. "It wasn't easy, but it felt right." Jenna nodded, her eyes glistening with quiet relief. "I'm proud of you." Her words wrapped around him like a warm blanket. She reached out, not grabbing him, but offering her hand. Cole took it slowly, feeling her fingers curl gently around his. "I didn't take it off because I'm forgetting her," he said quietly. "I took it off because I'm choosing to live again." Jenna squeezed his hand softly. "That's all I ever wanted for you." They stood there, hand in hand, the morning sun casting long shadows behind them. Cole felt the softness of the moment settle inside him. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't forced. It was natural, like the slow bloom of a flower after a long winter. They walked around the ranch together that day, talking softly, sharing thoughts, and simply enjoying the comfort of each other's presence. Cole felt a calmness in her company, something real and steady. It wasn't the same as his past love, but it didn't have to be. It was something new, gentle, honest, and growing at its own pace. Throughout the day, Cole realized something important. Life didn't give only one chance at happiness. It could offer more if the heart was open to seeing it. As the sun began to set, Cole stood with Jenna at the fence line, watching the sky shift into soft colors. He felt hopeful, truly hopeful, for the first time in years. And with Jenna standing beside him, he knew this was just the beginning of something beautiful, something worth embracing, something he wouldn't walk away from. He had let go of the past with love, and now he was ready to step into a future that was waiting patiently, quietly, and warmly, right beside him. The days that followed felt different for Cole, in a way he had never expected. It wasn't that everything changed overnight. The ranch still ran the same way. The mornings still came early. The chores still needed doing. But something inside him had shifted, something gentle and quiet. He moved through each day with a lightness he hadn't felt in years, as if a heavy blanket had been lifted from his shoulders. Jenna noticed it too. She didn't comment loudly or constantly, but she smiled more when she looked at him, and there was a softness in her eyes that told him she understood how important that step had been for him. She didn't push him, didn't rush him. She simply walked beside him, offering calm presence and warm company. One morning, Cole found her sitting by the fence, her camera resting in her lap. The sun hadn't fully risen yet, and a small layer of mist floated over the fields. She looked peaceful as she watched the horses grazing. Cole walked up slowly, not wanting to disturb her moment, but she turned and smiled the second she sensed him there. "You're up early," she said with a soft grin. "Habit," Cole replied, settling next to her. Jenna laughed quietly. "I think that word sums up the whole ranch life." Cole nodded. "It does." They sat together for a while, letting the calm morning speak for them. Cole didn't feel the need to fill the silence. Being beside Jenna felt natural, as if their quiet moments were just as meaningful as their conversations. "You know," Jenna said after a bit, "these last few days have felt special. This place, it feels alive in a different way." "It always has life," Cole said, glancing at the fields. "True," Jenna agreed, "but it feels different because of you." Cole turned to her, surprised. "Me?" She nodded gently. "You're opening up. You're here. Really here." Cole breathed in slowly, feeling the truth in her words. For so long, he had gone through life like a quiet shadow, doing what needed to be done but not fully living. He had worked hard, stayed loyal, and kept to himself, carrying his grief with silent strength. But now, he felt something else, something warm and steady. "I guess I didn't realize how closed off I was," he admitted. "That's normal," Jenna said gently. "Sometimes people protect themselves so much that they forget how to let light in." Cole stared at the sky for a moment. "And you?" he asked quietly. "You helped me let it in." Jenna smiled shyly, lowering her gaze. "I didn't do much, I just showed up." "Sometimes showing up is everything," Cole said softly. They spent most of the morning talking as they walked around the ranch. Cole told her stories he had never told anyone, simple stories about his childhood, the early days of working with horses, moments that shaped him into the quiet man he had become. Jenna listened with patience and curiosity, asking soft questions and laughing gently at parts that made his otherwise serious face lighten. Later in the day, the rest of the ranch workers gathered for lunch. One by one, they noticed Cole smiling more, speaking a little more, and standing with an ease they hadn't seen in a long time. Though they didn't say much, they exchanged knowing glances. They liked Jenna. They liked what she brought out of him. For months, years even, they had hoped Cole would find something or someone who made him feel less alone. After lunch, Jenna wandered over to the barn to organize some of her photos. Cole followed her there, leaning against the wooden door as she flipped through the images on her camera screen. She looked up and motioned for him to come closer. "I want to show you something," she said. Cole walked beside her, and she scrolled through a series of photos. They were shots of him, working with horses, fixing a fence, brushing dust off his hands, talking with others. He hadn't realized she had taken so many. "Is that really how I look?" he asked, half curious, half embarrassed. "That's exactly how you look," Jenna said warmly. "Steady, kind, gentle, strong in a quiet way." Cole blinked slowly, feeling something warm spread through his chest. He had never thought of himself that way. He simply did what needed to be done. He had never seen himself through someone else's eyes, especially not through the eyes of someone who cared. "You capture things differently," Cole said. That's my job, Jenna replied. But with you, it feels personal. Her words hung in the air between them, soft and meaningful. Cole stepped a little closer. It feels personal to me too, he said, his voice deep but gentle. Jenna looked up at him, her eyes meeting his with calm honesty. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was full of unspoken understanding. Their connection had grown slowly, naturally, like a flower blooming from a seed they hadn't even realized they planted. When Jenna broke the silence, her voice was soft. I don't want to rush you, Cole. Whatever this is, whatever we're becoming, it can grow at whatever pace feels right. Cole nodded. I appreciate that, but I don't want to hold back anymore. Jenna smiled, a small blush warming her cheeks. As the afternoon sun lowered, painting golden light through the barn windows, they walked outside together. Cole found himself reaching for her hand without thinking. Jenna's fingers slipped into his easily, naturally, as if it had been waiting to happen. They walked together through the open fields, the tall grass brushing against their legs. Cole felt a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. The weight of grief had not disappeared. It never would, but it now shared space with something hopeful and new. A few days later, Jenna told Cole she would be finishing her photography project soon. She would need to move on to the next location, traveling again with her camera, searching for new stories. Cole felt a tightness in his chest, a quiet worry that he might lose what was growing between them. But Jenna sensed it before he said anything. I'm not leaving your life, she said softly. I'm just leaving the ranch for a while. You'll come back? Cole asked quietly. If you want me to, she replied. Cole took her hand again, holding it firmly. I do. Jenna's smile grew tender. Then I will. They spent her last day on the ranch walking everywhere, across the fields, through the barn, near the creek. Cole showed her small places he had never shown anyone. They talked, laughed, and shared pieces of themselves that made everything feel deeper. When it was time for her to leave, she stood beside him near her truck. She placed her hand against his chest gently. You've come far, she said softly. Be proud of yourself. I'm learning, Cole replied. And I'll be back, Jenna promised. You're not losing me. He nodded, trusting her completely. As she drove away, Cole watched until her truck disappeared down the long dirt road. Instead of the old ache of loss, he felt something steady, something like hope. He walked back toward the ranch with a soft smile forming on his face. The next morning, he wore no ring on his finger, but he didn't feel empty. Instead, he felt full of memories that shaped him and new feelings that guided him forward. People in town started noticing changes too. Cole smiled more. He talked more. He didn't hide behind silence. He even visited the town gathering again the next month, something no one expected. The cowboy, once known for carrying quiet sorrow wherever he went, now carried warmth and kindness that reached others. He found comfort in knowing he could love again without losing the past. He honored what he had, while opening his heart to what could be. And every time Jenna sent him a message or a picture from her travels, his heart filled with gentle excitement. He looked forward to her return, not with fear or worry, but with quiet hope. Life had given him a second chance, not to replace what he had lost, but to grow beyond the shadows of grief and step into a future filled with soft light, gentle moments, and the promise of love that came like the calm sunrise over the Wyoming fields. He had taken off the ring, and in doing so, he had opened the door to the life waiting patiently on the other side.